Welcome to the UTB Blogcast number 5. This was not planned. We just suddenly got a chance to have Chaplain Clancy on with us. So here we are. So it's me, Brad. We've got Chap. Say hi, Chap.
Hi, guys.
Awesome shirt, dude.
Thanks, man. It's a hoodie. We should get those.
We're going to get them. We've got John De Leon.
Hi.
Hi, John.
Johnny.
We got James back again. And Uncle Dave.
Excellent.
Did everyone say hi?
Hey, everyone.
Not me. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Good times. Well, today we saw our BlackBerry stock take a massive dive. And from all of our searching, it seems like everybody's taking Chen's little interview and running with it to say that BlackBerry is leaving the device area again. No matter how many times he said he's not leaving devices, that's exactly what everybody runs with each time. Any opinions?
I figure if you want something hard enough, you just keep saying it, and one day it might happen.
Brad,
It's quite a frustrating thing to hear.
To couch the discussion, Brad, are there more than one outlet that we sort of keep in touch with that is running with this story that you know of? Is it just one, or is it a couple?
No, it's been several headlines. I wish I would have. Why are you asking me questions like that, James?
Sorry.
It's related. No, he said he got cut down to maybe 1, maybe 2 devices a year, and the headlines have jumped on BlackBerry leaving devices again.
Yeah, well, let's face it. I mean, a long time ago when the Earth was green, in the BBOS days, they had more different kinds of devices than you could shake a stick at. All the different kinds of curves, all the, the 9900, this and that and the other thing. So many different kinds of phones, the torches. And even back then I was kind of shaking my head going, why do you need 6 different things or 7 different things? It's nice to be able to be all things to all people, but when you take a look around at your competition, well, maybe it's not fair to pick on Android because there's a million different things there, but if you look at just one company, that's an awful lot of devices. And so even 5 years ago, I was thinking that's just way too many boxes to create and maintain and write software for. When BB10 came out, first thing out of the gate was Z10 and then the Q10. What came next after that? Was it the Z? Yeah, Z30 was next, and we got the Z3, and then Passport and Classic. And
don't forget the Q5.
Q5. No, that's very good, my friend. Thank you. And although there's that many devices, they're not all current in today's portfolio. If you look at, very successful companies, got to give it to them. You look at Apple, they've got 2, maybe 3 devices in one 365-day segment a year, whenever you want to start and end it. At this point, it's the iPhone 6, the 6 Plus, and now they're going to do some 6S thing, whatever it's going to be. And 2 or 3 devices, to me, makes sense. If you stuck a gun to my head, which an awful lot of people want to do, I'd be thinking a high-end keyboard device and a high-end touch device, and I know somebody on this panel is going to argue with me. That would be my minimum 2. Yeah.
We need 3.
Well, you're thousands of miles away, so I can't slap you, but that's where I would go. And I don't think that that's a dumb idea. Having 2 devices, maximum 3, is a fine thing. And for these people to start saying that BlackBerry is, leaving the handset business or whatever because they're going to have 1, maybe 2 choices, is, of course, ridiculous. Like so many things that get reported. Next.
Well, even at the beginning of that interview, one of the questions they had to ask is, Chen can't have an interview without being asked, "Are you going to sell?"
Right.
But going back to the multiple devices, that was one of the big complaints about BBOS from developers, was how many different screen sizes, how many different styles of phone. It was difficult to make the apps that fit all phones. So I mean, cutting back to your square screen and 1 phablet, whatever you want to call it, I think that's the way to go. I don't think they should have 2 high-spec phones, regardless of all the people that they've got to have their little gamer phone. They've got to have their arcade in their pocket. I think a high-spec QWERTY, and I'm thinking a budget touch is the way to go right now.
I think y'all are forgetting about the torch-like phone that's supposed to be coming out, where it'll handle kind of like, it'll be the 2-in-1 with the screen and as well as the keyboard. And I think keyboard is what BlackBerry's always been about. So I think we need to remember that. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, John, I had a torch slider for at least 2 years. And you're right on the money. I mean, you could open that thing and use your keyboard, and I would say 80% of the owners of that phone did that. Me, no, I was in the 20%. There was no fingerprints on my keyboard. I used the touch screen almost exclusively. And so that box has the capability of being a thing for either person.
See, I'm
Talking about one of these, Dave?
That's the one, son.
That's right.
That's the
We
one.
all have a torch.
I had both. I had the 9800 and the 9810. Both were.
Well, they didn't bring the 9810 out to Australia, so 9800 was what did it for me.
Yeah, that was an awesome box.
I have a question. So
Jim.
before I chime in on my personal opinion on how many devices, so you mentioned, Brad, one of the possible reasons is developers having to write their apps for different size screens or different screen shapes isn't the right word. What's the right word, Brad? 1 times 1. What is that called?
Aspects.
Aspect
Aspect
okay.
ratios.
Yeah.
So here's my question about the aspects. If I have a Q10, is that a different aspect than the Classic or the Passport? I think that's all the same aspect, even though it's different sizes. So that's only one issue for a dev, right?
Right.
Okay, so then if I have a Z30 versus, I just so happen to have my Z10 also. If I have a Z30 and a Z10, that's only 1 aspect ratio, right? Even though they're different sizes?
Well, they're different resolutions.
They were actually different.
Change the ratio.
Okay, so these are different. Okay. All right, then I guess the other issue would be they have to do a production run. There's a cost, but I thought BlackBerry sort of pushed that off to the manufacturer, so they're really not trying to avoid that, right? And they're not trying to avoid to set up a production run of a particular phone that's different, correct?
Well, there's more that goes into it than just the production. I mean, the phones have to be designed.
True. Okay, so there's design costs, testing, and the developers. All right,
I don't think they're cutting down on the amount of phones because of developers wanting a single aspect ratio. I just know that was a complaint back in the BBOS days, was there's just too many different screen sizes. And anymore with how Android is so fractured and every single phone you have has a different aspect ratio, that may not even be a modern complaint anymore. Also looking at how the Passport can resize Android apps. I'm sure they could do the same thing with a native app if they needed to.
Yeah. Android development tools and BlackBerry development tools all have the capability of being able to update their apps to whatever screen size. It's up to developers. It should be easy, but who am I to say? But back to the roundtable of who thinks we should have what. If you only had one or two devices, what would it be? Cap, you're up.
Oh, I think from a business perspective, it all comes down to numbers. If you can roll out a certain amount of variety of devices and sell what you need to in order to make a profit, then from a business perspective, you're going to be happy. I guess, are people rebelling against the different amount of devices? I mean, who on earth here has actually rebelled against having choice in what they want? The keyboard is about choice. The 5-inch phablet size is a choice. The potential, as Ron mentioned, about the slider, there's a choice. I've got to admit, if I had a contract up at the time that a slider was coming out, I'd be going for the slider. It works for me, works for my use. And I think we need to remember that BlackBerry is still about choice. It is about having those options available to you without having to go out and buy another case or get an app or buy something additional that will mean that you're paying more than just the handset cost, which again is what BlackBerry's always been about, providing you what you need to go from the get-go without having to fork out any more for it. I say make 200. Make what you need to satisfy your market, to satisfy the users out there, and to continue to enable the choice. That's the way that I see it anyway.
Interesting.
I think Ian said something kind of smart earlier today, whereas he was talking about bringing out phones on like a 2-year cycle. So we have our Passport now, and I mean I know we've got the Dallas coming, but say this was our Passport for the next 2 years. So 6 months down the line, they can bring out a full touch. You got that for 2 years. 6 months down the line, you have a slider. They can have that for 2 years. So you get your variety, but then when they update the phone, it's not one of these mediocre updates where, okay, we've got a new back door on this phone. You know,
we now have it in cobalt blue.
Yeah. I was talking about a Samsung, but yeah, you can do that too.
Now that makes sense, staggering the release if they were to do it that way, where they did every 6 months doing a Passport and then releasing the next phone, which would ever be the full touch. Maybe even if they do the slider. I'm with that. I don't know what I would do, but I still think it should be 3 phones, one being a full touch, one being the slider, and either the Passport or the Classic, and I would stick with that. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, you've got to also think about the life cycle of hardware. This is why most mobile contracts are between 2 and 3 years. When your hardware is coming to a point where your battery's running short or there's some other hardware aspect that's going, that's about the time you start thinking new phone. If you've got a phone of your preference and your preferential maker is bringing one out, then you're going to have a very easy choice to make. Contracts coming up, new phone, new specs, but same model, same usage. I like that idea of bringing out the staggered. So, say every year we do a full touch, every second year we do the QWERTY. 6 months in between we might do a slider or something along those lines, so that you're actually matching up with your clients' your clients' contracts and keeping them happy, keeping them on the go, keeping them doing what they need to do to be productive. Yet another BlackBerry slogan.
I like that idea if the specs come out and they are awesome.
Yeah.
But you can't bring a phone out every 2 years that is 2 years ago.
And slap
Because
an S on the end.
if there's one thing about mobile, the advancement in technology is relentless. More so even than desktop computing.
Yes. And if you know nothing about your mobile phone software, you're at least going to use an argument for the specs, which is what we see in other manufacturers. The argument's all about specs. It's not about the software, how versatile it is, how well it runs on the system. So you've got to at least be able to compete in that arena.
Yep.
But the competition right now isn't at the high level. I mean, that's not where people are running to make money right now, except for Apple, of course. But right now, it's emerging markets. It's the lower cost phones, the budget phones.
Yeah.
That's where the money is in mobile right now.
Which we've got with the Elite, which is effectively a startup device.
Exactly.
And the Q5 still works, doesn't it, Brad?
Hasn't been powered on for a couple weeks, but yeah, it's beautiful. It's got the update. That was the last time it was powered on. I'm actually using my Z10 again as my second little phone. That feels just tiny after the Passport.
I just updated mine myself, Brad.
Yeah, but James, you change phones like 5 times a day. That's
right.
Well,
You
look,
were using the Z30 at the start. James, what are you using now?
Well, so it's what time is it?
Or does it just depend on what pants you're wearing at the time?
It's 2150, and I'm looking at my Z30 here, but the thing is, I just updated the Z10, and now I want to get some data on there, so I may wind up using it. If BlackBerry, if they cut down to 2 phones, that will save me a ton of money and time. Because I still want to, I have 4 BB10 devices. I still want the Q5. I still want the Z3. I still want the Leap. I still want the Passport. And I'm going to want the slider. I don't know what my problem is.
Okay, BlackBerry. James needs a collector's box. Put one together and send us out one, and we'll be fine.
He wants a real tool belt.
I think that what BlackBerry or somebody needs to make is a holster that has like 6, different shapes in it that James can wear. It's kind of like
Listen, I like it.
A leather carpenter tool belt kind of a thing.
Well, I mean,
and then James can pretend to be Batman.
Right.
I know I have a problem.
Where does he get all those toys?
I see one of my phones sitting on the shelf. I'm very happy with all of them, but I'm using one of them, and invariably I see one sitting on the shelf, and it looks really good. And then I pick it up, and then I got to try it. And then I'm like, I got to put my data on it. Think it over.
Okay, did everybody give their 2 cents worth about what 1 or 2 devices they ought to be? Or
3.
Or 3.
I think Brad's probably right. Definitely, we have to stick with the keyboard because it certainly goes with Chen's strategy of the enterprise first. So the keyboards seem to be more the efficient, the productivity, security conscious people. So their core user base. So we know they're going to have a keyboard, a phone, and it probably would be the high touch, the high spec device. But I do think that they're going to want to have another device for sure, an all-touch for enterprise sales for people who want a choice if they ever have a chance to sell some of these. So I know they're going to have at least one other phone, whether it's a slider or just a slab. Truthfully, I don't second guess Chen too much. If he says it's 2, I just trust him.
Well, see, what James just said right there is kind of my reason behind why I'm saying, high spec touch or high spec keyboard and low spec touch. Because
That's what
us diehards, us BlackBerry users that are going to buy a phone because it's a BlackBerry, we're the QWERTY bugs. We're the ones that want the keyboard, and we're not going to leave the keyboard. But you got to win over all those people on the iToys and the Samsungs, and you're not going to do that with a keyboard. They're going to look at a keyboard and they're just going to pass right by it. Yes, we see your phone.
Yeah.
John.
I believe I talked about that about a year ago when the Z30 came out.
Oh yeah, but when you're talking about fleet phones, you're talking about a company buying like what is England the ones buying all the phones now?
The 20,000 the UK government.
Right, and you're going to go for the cheaper phones. They're not going to go out and buy the Apex phone for their crew. They're going to buy something that's relatively cheap.
Right, it's about
They're going to want to win those people over. So, you know, if you put a Leap in their hand and their personal phone's a Samsung, it's going to take them a couple hours to realize that, you know, this entry-level Leap runs circles around their $600 Samsung.
Mm.
I will play heretic just for a sec, though, Brad, and say that because, like I said before, my experience on the Torch slider, I had absolutely no problem and absolutely wanted to jump onto the Z10 when it came out. I went and got it the day it came out in Canada and loved that thing and upgraded it to the Z30 and loved that thing too. And it was me a little bit nervous going and getting a Passport on release day. I did it anyway, and I love it. But I was a slap guy all the way. So, heretic.
Yeah, Dave, we know you have problems. That's nothing new.
For sure, I'm from Canada, eh?
See, I waited on the Z10. I waited because I wanted the Q10, and I was holding out, but it was taking forever for the Q10 to arrive, so then I ran out and got the Z10. And yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Loved the touch all the way up until the Q5. And then I realized what I've been missing.
Yeah, the same way it happened whenever we were trying to get the Passport as well, at least in the United States. I know all of you around the world don't have this problem.
Oh, John, what it took me to get the passport to this country. Oh, that was a few days worth of well-spent effort, my friend.
Yeah, Chap's a hero there.
So I do want to add.
I'm about to go to war with Optus again, but anyway.
I do want to add one small comment to the phone discussion, number of phones, etc. This isn't permanent necessarily. Even if he only goes with two or one, it's not necessarily a permanent strategy. He's just trying to still put the company in the black, and he wants to always keep making money. I think eventually, we don't know what his strategy could be for device sales or consumer until he starts or
I can't hear a blasted word James is saying.
I think James just learned how to speak Chinese.
Yeah. We're not hearing you, Mike.
I think James's sound is being linked through Grim.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me?
All the way from Yorkshire, mate.
You're echoing really bad, James.
Let's see this. Now?
Yeah.
Now you're gone.
So all I was trying to say was, sorry about that, that whatever the strategy is right now with two phones or one phone that Chen employs, it's not permanent, and we're still, the company's still, struggling to grow. It's still part of Chen's turnaround, and so we have to remember that. And the other thing we have to remember is that
we have not seen him spend any money in any significant way on marketing devices to consumers. And until we see him do that, we don't know what's going to happen, because he hasn't focused on it yet. The guy's sharp, and when he does, I think we're going to get some market share.
Well, let's hope that day comes soon.
And I think that's a fairly sensible statement to make, considering all the focus on software and enterprise. The one thing that Chen did say once was that the software needs devices. You need the devices to run. So I think it's almost as if the hardware is just a package of the BlackBerry experience. That whatever Chen is selling to the different companies, to the different enterprises, to government, he's basically saying, here's our software, here's how we're going to make you more productive in what you do, and lo and behold, here are the devices that are going to make it happen. So I think it's less and less of hardware versus software, and it's more that the two of them are becoming one.
Time will tell.
Yeah, of course.
Well, have we beat the crap out of that one yet, or you want to move on?
Oh, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Actually, that is around.
Did Jesus get on the podcast?
Yeah. I thought I heard ears, or did I?
What does the Android rumor? How does that play into this number of devices?
At this point, it doesn't. The Android rumor is still a rumor. We all have our own opinions, and in all honesty, I think we've beat that one well beyond that. But I don't think
we all have our own opinions, and Brad's the only one that's wrong.
We established that earlier today, I believe.
Wait, what?
To be honest, at the moment, the Android rumor is just for a slow news day.
It gives us something else to talk about in our forums.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So what about this new company that BlackBerry bought, Dave?
Ad hoc.
Yeah, I'm struggling with how to pronounce it. I want to say ad hoc, like ad hoc, and maybe that was the reason they chose that name. I have no idea. But what they are is a networked crisis communication company. I do believe they're American. They have several high-end customers right now, Homeland Security for the U.S., Department of Health, Human Services, etc. Even companies like Microsoft, campus environments like UCLA. And I think one of the things about them is that it helps round out BlackBerry's portfolio in messaging, but it expands it in quite a massive way. And it's similar to some software that I'm familiar with where I work in that. You'll put in a server or multiple servers in, say, a campus environment, and you'll set up certain scenarios for certain crises. So in a campus environment, you might have an aggressive person come into a campus environment, and you'd want to notify all of the people on the campus, in their case, maybe UCLA. And what that server will do will be able to text all of the people that are signed up to the campus, so all of the students, making them aware of an issue. They might want to be aware that there's somebody on site that's being violent or something, or there's a fire somewhere. So not only will you be able to send text messages to mobile devices, you'll also be able to send canned WAV file type messages over paging equipment that's installed in buildings. You can flash messages onto IP-enabled telephones that are on desks. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can send a message to. And so if you take a look at BBM, which is a highly secure messaging platform, this brings to the table a rather massive expansion of that kind of an idea. So, and having ad hoc already into the Department of Defense and the UCLAs of this world, large enterprise, heavily secured businesses and locations, I think it's just sort of a natural extension. Another sort of another nice jewel in a crown, you might say.
I had to put Chap on mute for a minute there. He was a little loud.
Well, you know, that's an Australian for you.
He's out there punching sharks and whatnot.
Yeah. Is that who taught him? So I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but I think it's a good acquisition, and it just does another checkbox thing for a huge enterprise. Yeah, we can do that. You know, another reason to sell, another reason to sign up.
Yeah, he's really amped up the portfolio of services and technologies to serve the enterprise. I'm astounded how people still sort of claim that, you know, whatever you can say about BlackBerry, if you don't want to buy one, fine, but you don't tell me that they're not more secure than some of these other platforms. They're trying to prove, you know, Android's more secure and or as secure, and iPhone is as secure, and yet the whole company, if you just follow them for a little while, their whole DNA is security. How can you compare a company that goes out and buys makes an acquisition like this to to Apple or Android? You know, it's ridiculous.
No, I know. Brad and I got into a little bit of a discussion with some Twinkie. I can't even remember what website it was, but there was some Twinkie insinuating that Apple and iPhone was more secure than anything out there, and it was almost sad if it wasn't so funny.
He was obviously just drinking the punch and had no clue the reality behind it.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
I don't know. So anyway, I guess we'll see over time what something like ad hoc can bring to the table. And to some degree, it's not dissimilar from what we saw when BlackBerry bought Watchdogs. And that company, you know, in a similar vein, just sort of really rounds out what BlackBerry can offer to an enterprise who wants to keep their information within the corporation and not get things leaked. And, you know, I'd be surprised if the Sonys of this world weren't smartening up and buying that technology. I don't know who John Chen meant when he said it, but he did say in one of the recent interviews over the last couple of days that movie scripts are moving through Watchdogs now. People don't want their stuff leaked. It's not funny, right?
I also wonder if perhaps it's more about what BlackBerry offers to the company that they're purchasing. So BlackBerry kind of forms the backbone for this company's security. They take an already good company and make it that much better. We see John Chen making so many partnerships with Samsung, for instance, to improve Knox. John Chen did talk about wanting to make greater partnerships. He wanted to bring what BlackBerry has, the strengths of BlackBerry, onto all platforms. And his big speech about net neutrality just emphasises that he really wants to see what BlackBerry has to offer come to these companies. A few years ago, we were talking about the fact that if BlackBerry was sold off, people are after the patents. That's what they really want. And instead of giving out the patents and BlackBerry losing all of their revenue, the patents then can be picked up by those companies that are acquired and utilised for what they need. And BlackBerry still makes good profit out of it and can keep doing what they do well.
Yeah, that's a good aspect.
So it is.
Moving right along.
There's that moment of silence everybody dreads.
And it's always caused by the Australian. Sorry. Oh.
That was awkward.
This is where we go to the
do I
toilet.
still sound like I'm tweaking?
We were having a moment of silence for our departed neighbor.
What a great segue.
all I'm going to say is that a little earlier this week I did what I thought was a satirical post where I basically rewrote somebody else's post, but I made it about UTB versus what they did. And we got a lot of happy birthday wishes, and I thank everybody for that. But it's not our birthday. That was just Brad being an a-hole.
Brad.
What?
Oh, man. Well, hey, Brad.
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday, man.
Hey, thanks, man.
The beautiful thing is we're still young enough that we count in halves.
That's my 42nd year, by the way, in case somebody wants to go researching me on the internet so they can tweet that. 42, I admit it. Welcome.
Brad?
Moving right along.
So, anything else you want to talk about? How's Australia down there, chat?
Not bad, actually. After the big snowfall we had last week, things are coming along very nicely indeed. But having said that, living in the Highlands, we get about 5 minutes of summer every year. It's a very cold place. Very cold place.
Really?
Yeah. Our top temp for the year is usually in the mid to high 20s. That's Celsius. Have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit. I look at that little F when I see your temperature measurements, and I think that it's forget you.
What is the old thing? I think you double it and add 30 or something like that, and then you're close to Fahrenheit.
Yeah. So, I mean, believe it or not, we're not all deserts and heat, but we do punch a lot of sharks, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes those guys just get a little out of hand.
Share that video in group, and everyone's shocked except for Chap, whose response is, "It's a small shark."
Yeah. Whatever.
It's a teenage great white, you know.
Chap put a bigger one on the Barbie last week.
No, we ate that one raw.
Hey, so I know you fought to get the passport down there. I mean, like you were actually the man to make it happen. Has there been?
And I got the first one.
And the first one, the very first one. That's right.
In Australia?
In Australia, yeah. I was the first one to get one. One that was okay. There are a few people who had them imported from overseas. In my opinion, that doesn't count. That's just cheating.
There you go.
I got the first one through official Australian retailers. We pushed it really hard. Optus weren't playing ball because Australia's not exactly a BlackBerry nation. from the consumer perspective. So we gathered a bunch of guys together who are in Australia, and we just said, when's the passport coming? When's the passport coming? We got some people from media on board who had big contracts with Optus in particular, and eventually it was a basically 24-hour turnaround. We had them saying, no, we're not stocking it, we're not interested in it. The very next day it was, here's the release date, guys. So yeah, we pushed hard, we sold them hard. First week, they completely sold out. And for the 4 weeks after that, they sold out of all of their inventory. So
Wow.
massive win for us.
High five.
Yeah.
It's nicely nice.
Where's that little emoji guy?
That's great, Chap.
That's amazing. We gotta interview you, or did you blog that? I know you don't feel. That's amazing.
I think I did.
Have we seen any more Blackberries released down there, or how about the Classic or the Leaf, or are they there?
Telstra has pushed the Classic out, and that's selling pretty well. I've pushed quite a few of them myself, which is not bad because I live in a small country town. In our region there is about 60,000 people. It's a really small place. We're too close to Sydney. That's the problem. I'm only about an hour up the road or down the road from Sydney, so most people go there for business or education. The Classic is here. I've seen it. I've had a bit of a play around with it in a Telstra shop, but we haven't seen hide nor hair of the Leap yet. And Optus has pulled the passport from their inventory, which we're still mystified about, and we're still having a bit of a battle with them about that. But we don't know when the Leap's going to come onto these shores, except through importing, grey importers, those kinds of avenues, which really kill your warranty. They kill your ability to upgrade as well, and it just makes life a bit difficult. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I know once the slider or whatever the next thing is that's released, we'll be going to town to try and get the retailers down here to stock it. But yeah, we're a bizarrely iPhone-loving nation, and everybody at work that I show the passport to says, this is a great phone. Where can I get it? Oh, can't get it in store. I'll get the next iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's quite frustrating, but we're doing our job down here, and BlackBerry still has a name. We still have people looking for them, and there are a bunch of us who won't stop because this is a great company, it's a great brand, and as we're seeing recently, security is important all across the world. Our Prime Minister, regardless of what ZDNet wants to say, actually still uses one, as do quite a few world leaders, and I think we really need to see BlackBerry pushed globally. So hopefully Australia is going to continue to be on that market, continue to be on that map. I know I will be at the forefront of that if everything else drops.
Well, I think you should advocate to have the Leap renamed for Australia users to the Roo.
The Roo does leap.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Hey,
Well, perhaps if they just give us the white leap, we can call it the Great White Shark.
Yeah. Thumbs up, man.
you guys, not to go back to another topic, but Chap just reminded me with one little comment I wanted to make when you guys were talking about how many devices other manufacturers produce, like Apple, for instance, because they're the only other company or one of the few other companies that actually have their own little lineup. They only make one phone, guys. I don't see them. That's one phone. I mean, it's either lower spec, a little cheaper, or it's upper spec, it's a little more expensive. It's the same. I don't see how they're different phones. They're just different size screens. And I think BlackBerry is truly offering different platforms to do things when in their lineup. If you consider all the BB10 phones.
And while different platforms, the same operating system, so you get the same experience across your platforms. Not having to go to, for Android's sake, all the different types of operating systems that will work on your phone. And with Apple, they sell one, but they sell it twice a year. They release it, and then they release the S version. And Apple's chipset, I mean, really, how does it compare to the market? I mean, they make their own stuff. I agree with you, James, wholeheartedly. We can't compare to these other companies because we've got our own mindset on how I don't work for BlackBerry. BlackBerry have their own mindset on how they do their devices. And I think, as I said before, 200, they're going to meet their user base, and that's the important thing.
What do you think, Brad? Do you think I was too hard on him?
Too hard on Apple?
Yeah.
No.
Never.
Did I think that you were too hard on Apple, James?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I'm asking.
No, the iPhone has been the same thing for the past 4 years. I'd say since the iPhone 4, I think that was the last good phone that they made. And it's just been minor updates, and now the big thing is they can say, hey, we have multiple phones. But it's all, I mean, you have an iPod to an iPad and all the little different sizes in between. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Either you've got an iPad that can make phone calls, or you've got a iPhone that just happens to be unable to make phone calls on a 10-inch screen.
Exactly. So I mean, you look at your Passport, you look at your Q5. They're both QWERTY phones. They're nothing alike. It's a completely different form factor. Your Z10, your Z30, I'll kind of give you that. It's just a little bit bigger, but even though the internals are a lot better on the Z30. But, I mean, there are different form factors. I know a lot of people that won't carry one of these because it's just too big for them. Well, don't make me go get my Q5. But, I mean, we do have choice where the others don't. I mean, even Samsung. Samsung makes a lot of phones. They make basically any price point you want, and we're always concerned about the Galaxies, but there's a lot more phones that Samsung makes.
Samsung is like a spaghetti phone manufacturer. They make 1 million phones and then throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Exactly. I kind of think that's how Apple came up with the watch.
Yeah.
The watch.
I think that even the Classic and the Q10 are two that are distinctive enough too, Brad, even though you didn't mention them. They have a lot of the same innards, but with the tool belt, it's a very different user experience.
Hey, I'll give you that. I was so anti-tool belt. I thought that was ridiculous. It was a step backwards. I don't have a Classic. I played with it. I'm fighting with myself because I'm trying not to buy right now, and I'm trying to decide between the Classic and the Leap. Who knows? I don't know what I'm gonna do. But man, and this is gonna hurt your feelings, James. I wouldn't even look at the Q10 now. I like that Classic. I like the tool belt. I want the tool belt on my Passport. I don't even want the tool belt. I just want the touchpad.
It's cool, man. I mean, it definitely. If I go from the Classic to the Q10, which I've done on 2 occasions, I know you guys make fun of me, but it's you start trying to select some text, and your thumb immediately goes to that little trackpad that's not there anymore. And you get frustrated. I mean, that trackpad is very handy. I mean, it's and the I know we don't want to go off on a tangent, but the buttons, the call and end buttons are very helpful, and the menu button is very helpful. You get used to hitting that menu button every time you want to do something. And you can do it in different ways, but once you get into one routine and it always works and it's always the same, it's very efficient. But
yeah, the touchpad, it's been 2 years since I've used. My last one was one of the Torches, and it took 5 seconds for me to feel right at home on that thing. But I thought we had a rule when James was around, we couldn't talk about the Classic anymore.
So we'll talk about the Q10.
This is turning into a show of yours.
Yeah, right.
I went to the trackpad and I had the touch screen, which did just the same thing. We have a confession from John, who dropped out. He was using his phone to be a part of this blogcast. And he says, and the world needs to hear this, if it had the battery life my BlackBerry Passport did. So there you go, confessions from a BlackBerry user.
And there's proof to some of our biggest fans that some of us do actually use other platforms as well. Although John's going to get demoted because he did.
Oh well. So what else we got? What about this banned in Pakistan thing, man? What's going on with that?
BlackBerry's too secure. They want to be able to keep an eye on their people.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Is it enough said? I don't know. How does it make you feel about the thumb that being under the thumb of the NSAs of this world, or the CSISs in Canada or whatever? I mean, like, there's Five Eyes. There's U.S., Canada, the UK. I don't know who else is in the Five Eyes, but they're all sort of together, and it's always kind of bugged me. Wait, where's my tinfoil hat? I'll find it later. It's always kind of bugged me.
You're wearing it, Dave.
It's always kind of bugged me about what you kind of get the feeling that there's certain organizations that don't want you to have secure communications. Maybe I'll just say it that way. And then there's a country that just says, well, you know what? Because I can say and do whatever I want, I'm just getting rid of it. That's what that is.
Well, that, I mean, you're your tinfoil hat, but that's one of the big conspiracy theories that you see in forums all over, is that the governments don't want BlackBerry to succeed. They want to use them. They don't want them to succeed because they want to keep an eye on us. And, trying to be a rational person, you don't want to fall into that whole, it's a huge conspiracy. Well, there's one government that just did it, right?
Yeah.
Although it's not exactly what I call.
Is a conspiracy when we talk about the way that governments actually think about security. We know that governments want to be able to look in on their citizens to make sure that they're not, plotting another Real Housewives series. They want to be able to make sure.
That's exactly what you're worried about, Chad.
They want to be able to make sure that people are safe, and there's an element of society that would agree with that when they buy into all the rhetoric. In our country, the big thing for us is refugees, and when we have the narrative trying to be rewritten so that the public are actually frightened, then they're going to want to say to the government, well, maybe we don't need all this security stuff. And then you get narratives like, well, I don't have anything to hide. Well, you may not think you have anything to hide, but you know what? I still don't want people rifling through my personal life. It's not necessarily conspiracy theory to say about governments that they want to keep the nation secure, which is what they want. And this is how they interpret it. BlackBerry can be maybe a stumbling block to that. Maybe not. But we see it with Pakistan. Of course, they want to be able to keep an eye on their people. And, well, let's look at where they caught Osama bin Laden. Let's not be all too political, but, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I think that we still need that level of privacy and security, and we need to be able to keep our lives private. But as the internet grows and information sharing grows, then the world becomes a very small place. And if your portion of that small world is cornered off so that nobody can see it, what happens to people? They get paranoid. That's just the way that we live at the moment. And until we have a society that doesn't get paranoid about privacy, then there's always going to be that tension. I still want to see BlackBerry continue to do what they do, because I want to live in a world where I know my privacy is secure. And I'm happy to take certain risks to see that happens.
But then you take it to the flip side, back to like the post that Bigley wrote earlier this week with the 1984, the George Orwell quote. And how frightening was that? I mean, who knew that George Orwell used an iPhone?
Well, it's a little older than we thought, I guess.
And it still hasn't changed.
No.
Holy crap.
So there was, I just have two little comments. One is I've been home a little bit more than normal lately, watching the news all day, working from my desk at home, and there was some rumblings on Capitol Hill in the U.S. here about trying to limit the type or amount of encryption that these mobile devices are allowed to have. So I know that, I don't know if it's a formal bill yet, but I know there's discussions about this. And I'm sure it's being driven by, you know, some security committee or something, you know, that has representatives of the NSA on it or whatever. And the other thing I want to say is before BB10 came out, I had a 9900, I knew that, and so somewhere before the Z10 was announced on Verizon, there was some type of civil unrest in England, and the blurb I heard on the radio on my way into work was that the authorities there were unable to track. They were using BBM to communicate, and it wasn't like a riot. They were demonstrating.
It was the subway thing.
They got a little bit out of hand, and there was some vandalism and that kind of stuff. It wasn't like a really big deal, but the authorities were unable to hack the BBM communications they were using to go where they wanted to go. I mean, you know, just to finish up though, I agree completely with Chap. My personal opinion, I would much rather sacrifice a little bit of safety in order to have my privacy.
Well, ultimately, you can never be 100% safe anyway. The more security layers you put in, or the more open you even try and get communications, the more somebody's going to find a way to do what they want to do. Yeah, we can't guarantee absolute safety. Even the authorities can't guarantee absolute safety. I think it's just a fallacy.
And that's the truth. And I don't want to get political, but there's one half of our country here in the U.S. thinks that you can. And every time anything happens, they immediately want to make all these extra laws and start changing everything to try to prevent any single accident or problem. And I get that, but you know, you got to be willing to give up a lot. And you know, the truth is like you said, Chap, I know a place similar to a country that's extremely they control everything. So you know, if you say, well, I'm willing to give up all my freedom in order to be safe, they control everything. They monitor you all the time. You know, they always know where you are and what you're doing, and it's called prison. And they have a ton of crime. So I don't know that even if you give up all your freedom, you can have perfect security. I think it's a dream. But
I thought you were talking about the Google campus.
Okay, what about this? What about this? What about a government being able to monitor? I don't know if you know what metadata is, but metadata is
we
like,
know what metadata is.
Yeah, it's like the fact that you're doing something, but you don't know what the content is. So I mean, metadata is like knowing the exact size, shape, and dimensions of every room in your house but you have no idea what's inside the house. What about governments knowing what's going on with your metadata? In other words, they know that I'm actually speaking with Brad. And they'd probably wonder why I was doing that, but they wouldn't ever have a clue what we said to each other. And you know, metadata might be the fact that I am in this location, but they don't know what I'm doing there, or whatever. What about being able to collect metadata? There's I know that right now there are algorithms written that the NSA uses to look at the fact that these two devices are coming together towards each other from a location-based system, and and they look for the idea that these two devices might get turned off now that they're at the same place, and then get turned back on again, and these devices leave each other. And that is a huge signal to them to go and wonder what the hell those people were up to. That's metadata. They don't necessarily know what those guys were talking about or what they were doing, but it's a signal saying, that's weird. Why would somebody do that?
Our country has recently talked about this, and there's been a bill put before Parliament about government agencies being able to collect metadata. I'm still a little bit on the fence about it. I guess is our privacy about content, or is it about actions?
Right. Or is it both?
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, because with metadata, governments can track your actions. Right. Not necessarily your content, as you've said, Dave, but they can at least have an idea of, you know, is he in the bathroom or is he in the kitchen? And if we go and storm the house now, are we going to be embarrassed by him in the shower, or is it going to be okay because he's making some sandwiches?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of against the whole thing, but you gotta, you know, the way things are going on this planet, you do have to be conscious of you know, the kinds of things that can affect your country, your democracy, your well-being, you know, the whole structure. You got to be conscious of that. I've always been against invasion of privacy, absolutely, and I try to avoid things that do that or allow for my privacy to be you know, broken. But you got to wonder what the smart maneuver is in the end. What are governments going to do? Maybe it's all going to end up being unbelievable algorithms on supercomputers. Maybe that's it.
Here's a question. Do you all, where is it in the settings for BB10 where there's the question of allow BlackBerry to collect data or something to better enhance your user experience? They'll sometimes check your location. If you click on it and to see what it's about, I just can't remember where it is, but I'm so particular that I won't even let BlackBerry have it. And really, I trust them. I'm on the other end, I think, of the spectrum, and I don't want them to have my metadata either, Dave. And I understand what you're saying, but I have really not heard, to me, a cogent argument that this stuff, theoretically, it should work, but I haven't heard any situations that it does work and it is working. Not yet, anyway. But
you're talking about it's under the diagnostics tab in security and privacy, Jim.
Yeah, there you go. It's in diagnostics. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the other thing you're going to want to do, James, then is run through your application permissions.
Yeah.
I feel bad I'm not sending them my information, but I'm just like, sorry, John Chen.
And that's it, I guess. Let's promote BlackBerry segment here. Great thing about BlackBerry, you can check your permissions. They're not fixed. You don't have to say, if I want this piece of software, I have to give you this information. Even with the Android apps now, which is great, we don't have to say, you're going to have this. There you go. Promote BlackBerry. Well done.
Hey, so you guys, you know how you see the little icon that comes up when your location services are being used? It's at the top. You know, it's like a little. I wonder if is that totally valid? In other words, can you really always tell when something is accessing your location?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice, James, it only comes on when you're in the bathroom. But that's just you.
That's just you, James. That's just you.
You do not want to. You do not want to be where. You do not want to know when I'm in the bathroom.
Why do you think I live in Australia?
Hey, that's my Oval Office, man.
Riding the Oval Office. What an amazing term that would become to be.
So what do we got here?
Where are we up to?
Got any subjects left?
I'm going to have to make a journey soon, guys.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up in the bathroom, so I think that makes for a good weekend.
But not in the toilet.
We can declare this a British blogcast. It's
There you
toilet
go.
humor. It's lovely.
All right, boys. Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
I
we're
think we've
okay.
beat it up enough.
Hey, nice having you, chap, on this podcast, man.
Pleasure. Whenever we can meet up in time zones, always happy to jump on.
Right on.
Awesome. All right. Good morning, chat. Good night, guys. And
God bless,
Excellent.
guys.
we'll see you next time.
Yeah, have a good one. See you, dudes.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.